Okay, first things first, what's your definition of happiness and your thoughts on the happiness-health equation? And I'm going to put that question to you, Saman.
In simple words, I will just say that happiness is a state of mind. It's contentment and satisfaction. I will just focus on this part because this is the mostly people, in fact not people, I myself, when I first came to Dubai, for me happiness was achieving success, being famous, earning money. Incorrect. It's actually these people who are real champions. It's adversity which actually helps people emerge as winners. So for me, happiness is sleeping without worries, having a guilt-free life, and making a positive difference in people's lives. So yeah, and as a happiness editor with a newspaper, my role is to completely redefine journalism. It is to bring happy and positive, inspiring news to the newspaper and for the readers so that they smile and so that their smile changes the world and spreads more cheer. So yeah. And if, for the second part of the question, when you say relate happiness to health, well, it's very obvious that happiness is a very, very important part to a healthy life. For example, if I may say, positive thoughts lead to a positive individual. It affects your body positively. Your body understands when you're happy, and it basically settles you down. But if you're stressed out, if you're anxious, if you have anxiety issues, you're basically an unhappy person. It will affect your body adversely. You can never be happy. So yeah, for me, yeah, health and happiness go hand in hand, cannot be without each other.
Thank you. You said a lot there, and there's a couple of bits that I'd like to pick up on, if I may. No, it's fine, I kept notes.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that you said in your role of a journalist, and I overheard you discussing with the MC before, there's so much negativity in the news. Everything that we turn on the TV, on our phones, in the paper, it's negative, and we pay attention. And speaking as a psychologist, I think I can provide a little bit of an insight into why we pay attention to that. And put simply, it's because of survival. As human beings, we are primed to focus on the negative. It's a survival instinct. It keeps us alive. And what that translates to in everyday experience is we read those bad stories in the newspaper because we need to, because that allows us to assess the threat. Is there something I need to do about that? So we are primed to pay attention to those negative stories. So that being said, that's not all there is, though. We can still do that and focus on other things if there are other things to focus on. So I think your role as a happiness editor in a leading newspaper is a fantastic one because it allows us to take in all the information.
Absolutely. And it's quite hard to find happy stories. I mean, it's easy. It is quite a task to find one happy story every day. Although you have the best stories coming out from people who are going through a very tough time. They're going through hard times, but they're the ones who actually share the best stories because they realize the value of happiness more than anyone. And that's my role. That's where my role comes in. Journalism is a very powerful profession. We have to educate and inform people, but apart from that, we also have to enlighten and empower. And that's where my role begins. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next question then. Smart Dubai released a happiness meter, an application designed to gather data on citizens' level of happiness. But the real question here is, can happiness be measured? Do you think there's a definite way to measure happiness? And if so, how do we do it? And again, I'll put that question to you, Saman.
Right. I think happiness meter is an amazing initiative because it's something that's quantifying happiness. Now, the country is actually paying a lot of attention. What do you pay attention to? Something that's really dear to your heart. The country is actually now focusing on happiness, and we're working to quantify. We never thought we could quantify happiness, but then there are methods. And there is no one single method that can be used to quantify happiness. There are certain factors and areas that have to be assessed. For example, a few areas to quantify, to figure out if a person is happy or not is his mental well-being, his physical well-being, his emotional well-being, financial and career. And to measure those, to see each of those, you have to have certain parameters. For example, to measure that, you will need to check the satisfaction level. What is a person's satisfaction level? And that, in turn, leads to we have to figure out her relationship with friends and family, how he or she is doing at work, how is he doing physically. So these are the different parameters. And I think I'm talking about scientifically how we can measure happiness in people. In my role, I measure happiness. When I interview somebody, the smile, that warmth, it shines through. There is no artificiality. I see the pain, but behind that, I see a winner. And that's how I immediately connect and figure out that, yeah, that's my story right there. So, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. If you'd like to add anything, any point to what we're talking about, please do, and then I'll come to your actual questions.
I mean, completely in agreement with what Samar says. Happiness is something that has to be lived day on, day by. And measuring happiness is something which is not one-on-one formula, 1 + 1 = 2, but there are certain things which are included in terms of scientific psychological approach. And as a clinical psychologist, of course, you are aware of the systems, how it works. Way about it goes in the sense that the collaboration events that you take care and how you put it together and how the interest, the engagement level that you create, this all put together cumulatively helps in measuring the happiness.
Yeah, and I guess speaking as a clinical psychologist, for me, it's not measuring the factors that we might think contribute to happiness, because those are things, because at the center of our happiness, as I see it, is our perception.
True.
So it's not a thing that causes us to feel a certain way, it's our perception of that thing. So there's no point measuring all these things on the outside, because that's not a valid measure of happiness. The valid measure of happiness is your perception. And again, I think that links back to Saman's point, which is about satisfaction and contentment. And just one more thing, because this is something that I always say, and I would be remiss not to say it here. I think, for me, happiness is now. Happiness is not if this happens or when this happens. Happiness is now, and it's about your perception of what it is that's going on around you.
If I could add also
Please.
The happiness meter. UN government now start the happiness meter. They are measuring the happiness of all the people who's dealing with the government. Either he's an employee or he's a customer. Nowadays we are monitoring the happiness of the people and finding what things can we change it to make them happy. So in the government, we are lucky now to have this leadership that they are caring the happiness of the people.
Yes, and it has to start there, doesn't it? It has to start on that governmental level in order
Started
to
already
feed
now
down.
in UAE government. We are measuring it now. Yeah.
The
Great.
services, sorry if I could just add. I recently went to DIVA office and I paid and I was very shocked when I entered. It was completely empty, perfectly. I thought it was closed. Then I went and I learned that they're so efficient and so amazing in their work. It's so fast that you don't even get to know. So when I went and met the lady, she was super sweet, smiling. You don't get to, usually when you go to such offices, I'm from India. When I go to an electricity office, people just rush me through. They want me to be out fast. They made me sit there. They spoke to me. They asked my problems. And when I'm going, they said, ma'am, can I help you with something more? You can ask me anything you want. And I was very shocked. I was like, she's actually making conversation with me. And before turning, I actually looked at the happiness meter and I made sure that I pressed it. Because it came from inside. It's because of the attitude people have. And that's how they are being trained in this country, which is amazing.
And there's something about measuring something that people navigate towards it. So, would she have been quite so keen to please you if they weren't measuring happiness?
Absolutely.
So by measuring it, you create it.
You're creating it, absolutely. Totally.
Okay. So I'll move on to the next question. Do you believe that happiness and success are interrelated? And if so, what is the importance of happiness in relationships and at work?
That's a good one. I would like to start with an interesting thing that has come across since last couple of weeks, and I've been thinking about it. We are dying since the time we are born, which means that you are dying every day. But if I put it in the positive context, you need to be living every day. It is worthwhile that how you live, and the happiness, if you are living on a daily basis with happiness, that is what is important and that is what counts. Happiness is a quest in its sense. It is intimate thing. It is different for different people. What's happiness for me wouldn't be happiness for the other person, and vice versa. And I completely agree when you said that, we should not be getting entangled, or we should not be postponing our happiness in the syndrome which I called if-then. So probably if I become so and so, then I will be a happy person. If I achieve this, then I will be a happy person. If I get to that position, then I will be a happy person. So by doing that, you are postponing your happiness on the daily basis. It is important that you be happy on a daily basis rather than postponing your happiness. Important thing is when you are achieving, when you are on a target to something, you are on an action period. Enjoy that action period every day, day in, day out. Enjoy the process wherein you want to reach. And success is, because success, when you achieve something, probably the success ends for you. But success is not that. Success is that daily bit of wins that you are making for achieving that particular activity. The moment you achieve, maybe you are in a week or in a 10 days or a 15 days or a month, you are done with that. And then you set yourself for another goal. And you are again on a next journey. So by doing this, you are enhancing your happiness more and more. You need to be very cautious while selecting the word success. Success doesn't mean to make yourself dishappy. It means to be happier. Enjoy every bit of the process wherein you are reaching towards the success. Make the best out of it. I would like to quote an example of a child in here. When a toddler starts to walk or tries to walk, it takes 2 baby steps and it falls down. And then it again gets up and probably walks 2 steps and falls down. But the same child, when reaches to the adulthood, and when they walk to the life, they fall down. I mean to say, they fail. So the same toddler who was falling down, getting up, running again, being happy, why does today being an adult is not happy when they fail? What is the stigma or what is the enigma with the word failure? So learn out of the failures also and be that same toddler which you were earlier. Why would you like to discourage yourself? So success and happiness, again, it's correlate in how you try to take and how you obtain the best out of it.
Thank you. And Engineer Hamad, did you want to add something?
I can add to what Dr. Zakir says, that success is, it's related to happiness, but not all the time. Not every time the success will be happy. I can succeed in something, but will not be happy for the other part, or as example, from the customer services view, I can reach my goals as a customer service manager, but does it will be happy for the customer himself? Sometimes no. What we should do that we develop our services from the point of view of the customer himself and take what he needs. That time, when we success, he will be succeed also. That's the happiness. So I could conclude that happiness is the true path of success.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll move on to our next question. What, according to you, and I'll put this question to you, Dr. Zakir, is the role of an employer in contributing to the success of an employee? And the second part, how does an employee's happiness result in high levels of customer experience and higher customer satisfaction levels?
Should the employer work towards the success of an employee? and why not, I would say. For sure, yes. I would back up this argument with data. So the recent Gallup survey provides us with the data that an happy employee contributes 47% more than a disengaged employee or an employee who is not happy. A happy employee always gives their earning per share 3.9 times greater, higher than what a normal employee is going to contribute to the system. Coming back to your question, employer should be facilitating the employee onto the path of success. How can they do that? Employer always has to first justify and clarify what are the vision of the organization. Once the vision is clear to the employees, they need to be assigned with the proper roles as per to their competencies. They should be given freedom to choose their own teammates. By doing so, you achieve the environment cohesiveness, and the team is engaged and the enthusiasm is developed in the team. Once the team is developed, of course, what the employer has to facilitate them is with the right tools, with the right know-how, and with the right equipment, I would say, for getting their goals and objectives of the organization. On the way forward, it is very important, and as we know, the data tell us that including millennials or including Gen X or Y, people always look forward to the learning when they are coming to the workplace. Employers should support on capacity building to the employees. It is very important aspect for anyone. Career paths. There should be career paths available for an employee. This all cumulatively will generate the ownership from the side of an employee, and they would probably become like a project director of any work that has been assigned to them. Once the employees take the role of an owner, they would like to do the work assigned to them with the best of their capabilities, and they will be happy, they will be connected with the workplace, which in turn, when they connect with the clients or the customers, a happy employee is always different than a dissatisfied or an unhappy employee, because they take their work as the ownership of that particular project. Let the customer be miles away, but they can surely feel the smile, and the smile always touches their heart when someone is talking to them with the best of the happiest mood. So it is very important for an employer to contribute in the success of an employee, which in turn, of course, is going to raise the productivity, which is in turn going to give the satisfaction to the customers. And as an overall whole, we all know that the organization's perspective is always to take care of the clients, provide the best to the customers, and which will allow them to grow. Mm-hmm. So I would put it that way. And just to add up, I would like to share the example what Zappos used to follow. Zappos has, or had, I would say, because it's now taken over by Amazon. Zappos believed in happy people making people happy. So that's the theory which Zappos followed. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a, I would say, not virus, but it's kind of a positive energy that spreads. So if you have happy people working for you, they are going to make people happy. So it's a fantastic psychology that we follow.
And we heard that from Saman, didn't we, when she gave her example
exactly.
of that exactly. When you talk about employers and their role in the happiness of their employees, you make it sound very easy, and I must admit, and I'm probably not alone here, that I've had mixed experiences having worked for employers, and some of them enhance my happiness and some of them do not. So while it might be easy, it doesn't happen. Yes. Not across the board anyway. Do you have any ideas on why that might be?
Okay, I could quote an example of our own organization. So I work as a general manager group for Al Shirawi group of companies. And we have been on a transformational path. Probably, if I have to say, in this region, almost like 6 years back, we were like a transactional company, and we took the road of transformational. Along with my CEO, Naveen Valrani, he was courteous enough to partner and listen to our needs that we put across, that would we like to see our employees, and it was a direct question, and he was too good enough to take my direct question, that would you like to see our employees as a cost, or do you see our employees as an investment? And that question just made him to think twice. And I was very fortunate that the answer was, yes, we are a transactional company, and what you are asking, Zakir, is a transformation. And let's start this journey, and let's move ahead onto this path. It's
a defining question, I think, and hopefully one that translated into action, because
Exactly.
I think that's people's frustration on the floor, is that they don't necessarily feel valued. And for me, I think it's quite simple. If you value someone and you show it, they will feel appreciated and happy, and they will give more.
Absolutely. It's always important that how the way you put in across your queries or your questions across to them, and the buy-in becomes easier from the management.
Thank you.
If I could add to that,
please.
Appreciation is very important. You know, you may give an employee a lot of money, maybe a lot of perks, and you may just ignore him. That kind of, you know, the person will never feel happy. So appreciation, I think, I'm also working in an organization, and I think just one good word, or, you know, appreciation for any good story. Yeah, you did very well. The story was very nice. It kind of really boosts your morale. So I think we should take this into account, that if we have somebody working for us, if, you know, somebody is under you, then you must appreciate small things. This is also an important value that we must infuse in people.
Yes.
That, you know, some people say that, you know, for example, I have a domestic help. No, I'm not going to praise her, because if I praise her, then she will sit on my head. That's not right. You need to appreciate them. They're sacrificing a lot for you. Okay, you're paying them, but need to appreciate. So these values, I think, are very important.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so our last question then for the panel. Taking the happiness and success connection further, how do you think are the organizations, public and private, looking at implementing this culture of happiness? What kind of steps should be taken or are planned at your organization to achieve the happiness goal? And I'll put that question to you, Engineer Hamad, please.
As an organization, the public and private, I think we should start from inside. If we want to reach the happiness goals, we have to start from the employees inside, that we, not only the salary, as my colleague here says, if you just give him money and that's it, you will not reach any goals. There has to be added value and appreciation for the employees. A couple of weeks ago, we have met with His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi. What he says that he was meeting the Chief of Happiness of all organizations. So he says, start the happiness from your organization, so you can reflect it to the people outside, all the citizens and the locals. So I think all of the organization now has to start from inside, so they can reflect it outside. And already now in all government organization, there is a KPIs for happiness that is measured. And it's also monitoring that, so we can reach what we put in 2021.
Just to add what he...
Please.
Hello. Just to add what he said, it is equally important that you create an experience and create a space of feeling, that what kind of a feeling are you giving to the employees. Once that has been clarified, then it is going to go ahead to the customer level, and so on and so forth. So very importantly, as what engineer mentioned, so we need to be focusing always on to what experience are we going to create, and what is the feeling that we leave for the employees.
And I think a lot of that is by modeling it. We can't ask somebody to do something we're not prepared to do ourselves. If you model valuing your own success, however large or small, people will see that. And you also have to value the success, however small, in your employees as well. You have to show them that you're valuing that in order for them to value it themselves.
I think also we have to let our employees to love what they do. So if they love what they do, they will success by default.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Well, that marks the end of our panel discussions, but I'd like to open up the floor to any questions that might be out there.
My name is Yusra Baki. Actually, I am Head of Happiness and CSR with AFAC company. I would like to ask Saman regarding how do you measure the happiness among your organization? So a small question in different way. The measurement, is it for employees, or is it for the customers, or the audience, or is it among the whole area? Small question. How you do measure it, the happiness?
Right. Sorry. For the employees is a part of the HR. I have no idea. Let me tell you, for the readers, journalism seeks to, we as journalists now seek to nourish minds of people rather than unsettle it. So that's why we have this whole agenda of doing positive stories and inspiring stories, so that people, when you open the newspaper, at least there is one page you can see and smile. So I measure happiness of readers, and that you can see in my work, which you see every day. And what we do is, I'm sorry, I'm just letting you know about the happiness of the readers, because for the employees I cannot say, because I am not into the HR part of it. But it's just that for employees, if you say my interaction with employees is just a smile is good enough, and asking somebody how are you is also good enough. That can help you really measure the happiness. You know, I've learned to connect from the heart rather than measuring and quantifying. I don't do that, because the stories, the kind of stories I do need a connection of the heart. And here at Khaleej Times, we are now rejuvenating journalism by getting a lot of positivity, happiness, and inspiring stories and stuff like that. So I measure happiness simply by my interaction with people. We just connect, and that's how I know the person is happy or doing well. Thank you.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Yusuf Arsheba from Ajman Municipality. Actually, this is a very good subject, and it came in a very good time, because I was a little bit sad when I came early morning. There were a lot of stress actually through my way to come to this event. And it's all related for sure for life, and life is work, business. It's not a question, it's much more of saying that there is a concept says that outside in, inside out. This is what has changed actually in UAE for the last 5 to 10 years. And especially the last 5 years, and the new cabinet for ministers has changed a lot in that area, where they started asking, why you ask people from outside to be happy, since you don't have that inside outside concept. Now, that's really makes very big sense. So why do we ask others while we don't have it inside? And my question here for Saman. Yeah, sorry for. Where do we find it actually? Where do we find this in every organization? That negativity part inside the organization has to be waived, and it takes time actually. It does not take a simple day. Sometimes also you may restructure the entire organization in order to get it back to track, and that's happened for a lot of big companies. To relieve their issues when it comes to how they are serving their customers. Xerox is one of the companies in that area where they were very bad in the service, so they make their customer happy. How do you find it inside the organization? How do you assess the organization happiness internally? That's a very important part.
I think everybody's asking me what we do internally in an organization.
They do. They want your inside scope.
You know, most of the time I'm outside the organization reporting, and I deal with, yes. Basically, by the way, let me also tell you one thing. There's a very, there's an opinion that journalists are very insensitive people. Khaleej Times is going to change this. We are not insensitive. We are now redefining journalism, because you know what? Journalism is basically related to facts. We are reporting factual news. This is the fact, this is the fact. But now what we're doing is, sorry, I'm not answering directly your question, because again, it's part of the organization and I do reporting. I'm a journalist, I go out and I report. And
Shall I interject?
Yes,
Because maybe
please.
I might be able to add something from a psychological perspective. You're asking about how you make an organization happy. How do you make a big, many cogs happy? And I think the answer lies within the individual. It's within. Happiness is within. Happiness is now. And I think we all have a responsibility to each other to instill that in one another. And it's about value, and it's about appreciation and respect, and be that a colleague, be that someone that works for you or you work for. Genuine value and appreciation goes a long way, goes a long way. And I'm not saying that we don't have stressors or concerns amongst us. My goodness, we do. But you can have that and still be happy.
Sorry.
Sorry.
You can go ahead.
Just to add to what Mary mentioned, so happiness is of course something which is innate, as I mentioned earlier. But important is what happens is, despite of being happy on those small chorus of activities that we do usually, we have big goals for ourselves. And every time when we reach to that goal, we are ready with the next goal. So this is probably a constraint which is pushing forward your happiness onto the daily chorus. When you are in a journey, enjoy the process, and also look back what you have achieved, rather than going to the next one, jumping onto the next one. So probably that answers the question.
Just would like to add that every day when we get up, we have a choice to make. You have God has given you some certain things. What you can do is, you can make do with what you have and do the best with it, or you can cry about it and lose what you have now also. Basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us happy from, internally we are happy. We're basically happy people. What we do is we don't realize it. So self-realization is very important. And see, everybody is going through pain. I've seen stories of people who are going through a tough time, cancer patients, special needs kids. But they are the real champions, because they've gone through adversity, pain, and they have harnessed the power of adversity and changed it into positivity. They value every minute, and we need to learn from them. So it's really inside. We have to bring it out and make do with what you have.
I don't want to abuse my position as chair here, but I just want to make one more comment. I think we've got time for one question after that. Neurons that fire together wire together. So we are primed to look at the negative. So our neurons, our brains have developed in that way. So we need to shift that, and we can. But it isn't as glib as look at the positive, don't worry about it, think of a nice picture. It isn't that, because that's our short-term memory. Where the changes in our brain structure happens is when those fleeting moments of joy and contentment and satisfaction stay longer. When those moments go into our long-term memory, that is when the wiring in the brain changes. So a small exercise that you can all do, not now, we don't have time, but bring up a moment that you feel that true contentment. Perhaps it's watching your child sleep. Perhaps it's scoring a goal, getting a promotion, whatever it is, and bring up that feeling and notice where in your body you feel it, and hold that feeling and stay with it for 20 seconds, 40 seconds. The more you do that with different experiences in your life on a daily basis, the more you are shifting these fleeting moments into your long-term memory, and that is how the brain changes. So, sorry to go on about that. So I will just take one more question, and then I think we need to finish.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Oh.
Ladies first, or what?
That's okay, he can go first.
Yes, it'll be a quick one.
I will be the last one.
I'm Saeed Khaloud from Oxygen Sustainability Consultancy. Thank you for this amazing panel, and I'm grateful for the initiatives that the government and the Ministry of Happiness is going through, improve the internal happiness atmosphere environment for people to make Dubai a happy city. I'm just going to add a point that is maybe not clear enough from the psychological aspect and the technical part of the work environment itself. most of us work in organizations or companies or corporations internally, in internal spaces. And it's a very crucial point that those spaces subconsciously affects our mood and hormones and happiness levels. So from my previous experience from a company that I used to work for, the indoor environment was very bad in terms of lighting and thermal comfort and air quality. So this affected me subconsciously and affected my performance and my productivity. So this is a very crucial point as well, the indoor space, the working space, the environment itself.
Because we spend a lot of time in it, don't we?
Exactly.
And if it's not a pleasant place to be, that can have an impact.
And it's a subconscious thing that you don't control it, you just feel it internally, and you cannot control it. So if the working environment internally is happy and open, light,
and I
clear.
think my response there would be to balance that. If that's something that has to happen, if that's an environment that absolutely cannot change, and you could change it by, bringing in a photo, looking at your phone of nice memories or whatever. But if it absolutely cannot change, then balance that with time outside. So make sure your time outside is well thought through. It's outside. It's with people. It's with people that you enjoy being with. It's whatever you need it to be, so that doesn't become all your life. It is part of it.
Yeah, and exactly, you can bring the outside inside the office itself.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
In terms of the design and the concept itself, to improve the internal working space for a productive and happy employees, subconsciously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.